let's go.
I've been thinking about this for quite a few weeks, to be honest with you, because yes, he's got a lot out of the players that Dean Smith signed. I mean, you've got John McGinn, who Steve Bruce signed. You've got Kamara and Digne, who Gerrard signed. But you've also got a pretty large core of players from Dean Smith. Has he took those players as far as they can go with Aston Villa? And what has happened to the players that Unai Emery signed? Because Yuri Tillemans, brilliant. Morgan Rogers, we'll come on to him in a second, but generally brilliant. You know, he had a great season last season, of course. But where's the succession planning? As Maatsen hasn't succeeded Luca Dean, Daniel Marlon hasn't come in on that right-hand side. You know, some of the best centre-back partnership, in my opinion, is still Konsa and Mings. Pau Torres, yeah, he's been a success, but he's too slow in the Premier League and he's too easy to now defend against and play against. We haven't signed a right back. None of the right backs that Unai Emery signed have been any good or been consistently any good to move ahead of Matty Cash, and that's saying something. The striking options, we haven't been able to sign a striker to complement or to compete against Ollie Watkins. So what's happening with the signings? We seem to at the moment be a sort of, I understand the strategy that Monchi has of signing some younger players across Europe, giving them some first team experience and then selling them off for profit. But if that's the case, then that profit should then be able to be used for signing some good players for the first team. Amadou Onana has not performed anywhere near what we'd have expected for a £50 million signing and for a player of his size and his stature. Yeah, he's brilliant at cheering on the fans when we've won a game, mostly when he hasn't been playing. But when we want him to be a dominant midfielder on the pitch, sadly, that's been far, far, far too lacking. So do we have to ask questions on some of the signings that Unai Emery's made? Because not many of them have come into the first team and then gone on to take us to higher levels. Some people in the comments might disagree with me on that, but you've got a point where the players that he's coached and got to a certain level, yes, Champions League quarterfinals, fourth in the league, amazing. But have they then hit that ceiling and are starting to wane and drop? But then you've got to have signings that come in that take those players either further on or will succeed them and take Villa onto a higher level. And that hasn't happened with many signings from Unai Emery. That's exactly what Captain Hindsight has said. PSR is a convenient excuse, says Rich. CC, hey Rich, it comes down to a lack of intensity, energy, and pace. I agree, absolutely. And in poor formation by Emery equals a loss. Black Country Villain, would be good if we use wingers and went out fast at teams, have a real go at teams. I totally agree. Peter Smith, I think certain players need moving on because they spit their dummy over average. Ramsey being sold. Well, this is a little part of it as well. Like, they've got to stop feeling sorry for themselves. And I saw the messages and that came out from some of the players. And look, I like it that players are vocal and will talk about things. But there comes a time and a place where you just have to get on with the game. And when you're throwing in stinkers like today, you can't help but see as a football supporter that, well, what's happening in the training ground? Are these players kind of down in tools or feeling sorry for themselves because a player's left? Like, just get on with it. Like I said, the basics of football: run, tackle, work hard. That's it. If you're having a bad game, those are the minimum expectations. But everyone was having a bad game today, and there were certain players that didn't want to run around. Let's get into some of the performances, because let's start with Amadou Onana. 6'5", tall, athletic, powerful, strong, dominant, or at least should be. That's the problem with Amadou Onana. He wants to be a player. He wants to be a footballer. He wants to do all these nice passes. and control the ball and do pirouettes on the ball. Just be a destroyer. Look at Joe Linton for Newcastle, right? No frills, gets in people's faces, smashes into tackles, pulls people, pushes people, uses his power, uses his strength, uses his height, is a complete nuisance to the opposition, dominates midfield. That is exactly what you should be doing, Amadou, but you don't. You're too nice. You want to be a player. We aren't going to win many games with you in midfield if you're not utilizing your attributes that you've got. Start doing it, because at the moment you're just weak. You're hiding. You're not involved in the game. He is just a poor excuse at the moment for a midfielder. Plays within himself, and he's going to get taken off every game at 65, 70 minutes, or he's not going to play. He'll miss a couple of games. He'll do the cheering for the Villa fans. Then he'll come in for 20 minutes. He'll play well, and then we'll rinse and repeat again. He's never going to be our main midfielder because he doesn't dominate the midfield. He wants to be a footballer. He wants to be a player when he needs to be a dominator. Poor performance today. And he was good in pre-season as well. I was looking forward to seeing. Pau Torres, we've talked about. Terrible performance today. Could not pass the ball to a Villa shirt moving forwards. John McGinn wasted out on that right-hand side, not involved in the game enough, constantly dropping back onto his left foot. Again, not his fault if he's playing on the right, but you're putting in crosses that the defence are just going to eat up every time. Go round the outside. Use your right foot from time to time. Just a poor performance, and some of your passing, some of your control was so bad. And it comes to something when we're making these substitutions and you're constantly moving players into different positions. That just shows a sign of desperation. Emi Buendia gets brought on at 15 minutes, gets taken off on 75 minutes. That tells you everything you need to know about Emi Buendia. He ain't good enough. He'll never be good enough. And I don't understand why the Aston Villa supporters still like him. It's because he runs around a lot. He doesn't do anything. He gives the ball away. He always tries to do the difficult pass when the easy pass is on. There was a time in the second half when all he had to do was roll the ball out to Daniel Marlin, who just come on, and he had space to run at the fullback. But no, what he tries to do is cut back on and tries to play a through ball to Ollie Watkins, and he gives the ball away. Another time where he receives the ball, chests it down, tries to run through, and Coyote, I think it was, just pops his leg round his body, takes the ball off him and runs forward. And then Buendia has the temerity to have a go at the other players around him for not telling him there's a man on. You're the number 10. You've got to look and assess the options of what's around you and then make the passes quickly. He had one effort that went miles wide that Unai Emery was absolutely going mad at him for. And yes, I know I've said that players should be doing something out of the ordinary, but just poor performance from him. And look, he ain't good enough. He's had a couple of good pre-season games. We all got excited because he played well in pre-season against Newcastle a couple of years ago and then got injured. And then this pre-season, he scored a free kick against Roma and everyone was like, oh, he's back. He ain't good enough. He's rubbish. He runs around. He's a busy fool. He does everything except for pass to Villa players when it matters. That's the problem with Emi Buendia. And the final player, and one who we have all of our expectations on, is Morgan Rogers. And I don't know what has happened to him since towards the back end of last season, if I'm being honest. He was poor against Newcastle last week, but today was probably the worst I've ever seen Morgan Rogers play. He was awful. He couldn't run. He was jogging around. He couldn't tackle. He couldn't control the ball. He couldn't pass it to a Villa player. He was too slow with the shot that he was presented with when actually Emi Buendia played a nice pass to him. He was too slow with the shot. He was walking around. Is Morgan Rogers waiting until the end of the transfer window to see what might happen? Is he thinking that a move to a Chelsea or an Arsenal or someone is going to come through for him and they're going to offer the 100 million or so that Aston Villa will probably accept? Because to me, he was playing so far within himself. He was playing at about 50%. He didn't want to put a tackle in. And that screams to me someone who doesn't want to get injured because it might scupper a move to a bigger club, in quotes, bigger club than Aston Villa. Because, I don't know, that did not look the right performance for me from Morgan Rogers. Unai Emery should have took him off. You know what? I know he took Buendia off. He probably should have took Morgan Rogers off, and I don't understand why, because that isn't going to do a lot for the team either, because they'll see him put a stinker in like that, the other players around, and say, well, how come you brought me on and took me off? This is Emi Buendia, yet he's staying on the pitch and he had an absolute stinker today. McGinn, why are you taking me off with 25 minutes to go when I was doing more than him? Like, that is not a good look at all. And he was terrible. But I would not be surprised if bids come in before the end of the window and he's playing because he knows that something's going to happen, and they're waiting to see if a team will hit that asking price that Aston Villa have for him, and then he might be able to move on, because you can't put in a performance like that. It was terrible, terrible, terrible performance. So Unai Emery with the super chat talking about Rodgers. If Spurs offer 70 million for Rodgers, take it. The problem is that if I don't think 70 million is enough for us to release him. I think it would have to be in the region of 90 to 100 million. Then we've got to get them ready to get players in to strengthen the squad, because we've already seen what the bench looks like today, and it doesn't look good. So if we're losing him, that would be terrible, 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 terrible. Favela, no Duran, no party. Last season, he was the season saviour. Certainly at this stage of last season, he was. Absolutely was. Absolutely was. Because if you remember, Watkins wasn't playing well. He was the player who was coming on and scoring the goals for us. He was changing the game for us, and we didn't have that. Peter, we should have transfers and loans done ready for the first game. I absolutely agree. Because look at where we are right now. We're kind of in a desperate situation, and Unai Emery hinted at this, and this is pretty much down to Monchi. You know, we have to put it down to him, because yes, they work very hard. Yes, we know, but they've known about the June deadline. They've known about the transfer window. They've known about having to get rid of players. They've known about how to balance the books with bringing players in. They haven't done their job properly. Unai called it out, saying that he wanted signings in. He wanted the players that he wanted out before now, so he had time to bring the players in. We're now playing catch up, and we haven't got enough players, and we are going to be short this season. I can guarantee it. We're not going to get the centre back in that we want to get in. We're not going to get in. We might get Asensio in. Is that the right move? I don't know. And then we're going to have to try and scramble around for a striker, because I don't think we're able to structure the deal for Jackson. So then will it be a second-rate player? I mean, that's not saying that Jackson's a first-rate player either. So it's a difficult situation right now. Martin, you're so right about Rodgers, particularly with his best mate Ramsey going hit the nail on the head. Look, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But today was just so bad, so disappointing. And look, I was quite shocked at Kev the other night when we did our match preview at how down and disappointed he was, and how he was sort of quite pessimistic about this game. And you know, everyone in the chat was like, apart from maybe one or two people, I think it was John in the chat as well, said it was going to be a difficult game and didn't see us getting anything out of it. So you guys were absolutely spot on. And something really does need to change with Aston Villa this season, because you start in this way, you're playing catch up for the whole season. If you start brilliant, then you can have a dip in the middle of the season and then come out the other side. But you lose momentum at the start of the season and you're absolutely playing catch up. And this is not looking good right now, because I don't know what he's going to do to try and turn it around. Can you bring a Garcia in? He's injured at the moment, but is he good enough? Is he good enough for the Premier League? I don't think so. Daniel Marlin, he hasn't had the confidence to play him right now, but I feel like he needs to find a place for him. Find a place for Marlin in that team. If that means sacrificing McGinn to the team, then sacrifice him. But take Onana out, put Tielemans back in, go Kamara, Tielemans, Rodgers, McGinn. Just go back to that, and then put Marlon out wide, because at the moment it's so unbalanced. We're so sloppy in possession. We don't seem to know where each other are playing, and when we give the ball away, we are just all at sea going through our team. And we're lucky to have only conceded one goal all season. We are lucky, because teams haven't quite got warmed up yet. But if they do, then we are going to be in some big trouble. Big trouble. So something really does need to change. And I put a tweet out the other day and lots of people commenting and it got quite a lot of coverage. But this season, and if you look at the reason I say this season is going to be key for Unai Emery's future at Aston Villa isn't necessarily because it's going to be like a bad job. He's going to do a bad job and going to get sacked. But if you look at the cycle with Villa managers and how it works with Aston Villa is they get to a certain point, then they either get frustrated with not being able to take Villa further forward, whether that be the chairman, whether that be rules, whether that be players, they'll inevitably move on. But because of the rules as well, there might be another club that sees Unai Emery and sees what he's done at Aston Villa and says, well, we've got more money. We've got more turnover. We're a more attractive proposition for you. We're in the Champions League. Why don't you come to us? And it would be a difficult decision for him to turn down. So that's where I'm worried about it. If we can get through this season by somehow doing well in Europe or turning it around in the league, then I see Unai Emery staying for the long haul and for a long time, maybe another 2, 3, 4 seasons. But if it doesn't happen this season for us, fans might get frustrated and will start putting pressure on him because we're already seeing lack of plan B, keeping the same players, doing this, doing that, not being creative enough. We're seeing that little bit of impatience coming in. We're then seeing the rules coming in to hinder how Villa can spend, albeit some of it has been self-inflicted, and I will say that. And then we're also seeing, well, Unai Emery might turn around and think, well, I've taken this club as far as I can go. So there's multiple areas there where I see this year being absolutely crucial to keeping Unai Emery at the club. And it's not out of thinking that he's going to get sacked and we're all going to want him sacked. It's just about where the club is and how we see it moving forward. That's what I see as being a key thing for Aston Villa. And games like this will only add to that frustration. And that's where it gets a little bit concerning.